was 18, physical for because something bothered me. And it gave me plenty of time because I'd been out in the woods like one, like I love humanity. That really bothers. One big question is a question that's coming up is very challenging. That is, I knew intuitively one simple little question. My grandmother, my neighbor's grandfather died. I didn't even know it. I just saw it. He died. A horrible state of mind. Wait, nobody can die, but somebody died. Intuitively, maybe previous life, I don't know why. I knew that no one could die, but people died. So I asked, give me the answer. And the answer I got, I asked the Jewish, I asked the rabbi. We don't discuss those things. As a priest, who went to heaven. How do you get into heaven? That was a check. I mean, just all kinds of platitudes, but no answers. Because I wanted to know what happens when someone dies. And my grandmother was very well, makes it messier for the undertaker. Ooh, shocking. Just and then she died. And I said, okay, now I'm going to figure out what death is. I have to know what does it mean? Because there were no answers to that question. And when people are dying, intuitively, all of you know, try this for a moment. Close your eyes for a moment. Close your eyes. Now imagine yourself dead. Try it. Because you know, something is going on. What is it? That's the question asked here because Krishna's and when your relatives leave, it's a great lamentation. At the same time, something inside you screams that no one can really die. So how did I solve that mystery? Well, when I came across a Gita in the village, I started reading it. I said, oh, somebody somewhere can make sense. It makes sense because it is the big question. And anyone who thinks that they're not bothered by that question is simply not thinking. You have to be bothered by it. One time, Jayadvaita Swami asked Prabhupada this question. Prabhupada said, the Gita is always being spoken. Krishna is like a traveling roadshow. He's speaking it here, he's speaking it there. The Gita is always going on. Somebody asked Jayadvaita, well, can't we go to that place maybe somehow, some mystic process, way where Krishna is still speaking the Gita? I'd like to be there. How do you think Prabhupada answered that question? Say again? Yes. Jayadvaita Brahmatirtha then says to Prabhupada, Prabhupada said the Gita is always being spoken somewhere. Krishna Arjuna, it's an eternal pastime. So is there some way we can go and actually hear Krishna speaking the Gita to Arjuna? That was the question. Anybody have a guess how Prabhupada answered? Yes.
I imagine he said something. Prabhu, you should read the Gita.
You should what?
You should read it.
Yeah, something like that. You should read it. What he said is, Krishna is speaking the Gita right now, and if you read it, you're hearing the same thing, Arjuna. You don't have to go there. You're right there. You are there now. You don't have to go to another place. It's right now. It's up to you to take it. So these kind of questions of what happens at death are answered. Now, in this chapter, though, there's a lamentation that Krishna left. Well, if we know that Krishna is in his words and Krishna leaves, why should we even be bother lamenting? Why bother? Why even bother? Yes. Anybody want to know why lament when anyone dies? Yes. Is there a microphone? Yeah. Oh, what's your name?
Blake.
Blake. Thanks, Blake.
One good reason could be uncertainty, like not knowing,
Yeah.
and then the perceived potential for something bad or undesirable for ourselves or a loved one. Be a reason to lament because we want to be assured that we're going somewhere positive and good.
Okay. Yes.
Spiritually, we know that we're spiritual. We're a soul, but we're so motored out. Like I can't contact them right now. Like I'm so like the material nature that you're gone for me.
It's actually yes.
I was thinking that although we're eternal and they still live on, but we're separated because we're individuals and that soul has moved on to some other body or other realm completely, and I'm still here. So actually there is a separation, right?
Yeah, there is. I mean, I feel the same way when I have friends of mine who I work with very closely, and they move even to another temple. I feel great lamentation, great separation. We have the song for departing Vaishnavas, lamentation. It's natural. But for a Vaishnav, that lamentation is bittersweet. It's bitter because we crave that association. Imagine Krishna's with you every day or 2 days, with Krishna, talking to Krishna, and he's gone. Naturally, that's lamentable, but it's sweet because all those memories of Krishna, because Krishna is not different than his name of memories, Krishna is still with him. So the answer to Jayagwada, your Krishna is right here in the Gita, just as much when he's with you. So it's natural to lament. It's a good emotion. I mean, when relatives die, it's naturally have some lamentation, some grief, some sadness. It actually brings us closer to that relative. But at the same time, especially when the devotee passes on, there's a sweetness because we know what their fate is. Can any of you, and then we'll get to the verse, can I ask you a question? Are any of you mystical enough to see the past and the future? I am. Come on, none of you are? I am. I am. I was hoping you wouldn't ask that. Okay. Yeah, I know. No, you're right. A good question. That's the right question, by the way. Okay, how can I see the past or the future? Okay, so we will pick a person. We'll start off. Shruti here. I can see his future. He's taken up devotional service, And because he's taken up devotional service, I know no matter what happens, it'll be wonderful. Even when he passes on, it's a great future. And let's say I see some big, powerful leader who's abusing people, being nasty and horrible. I won't mention any names, but you all know who I mean. Let's say you're some horrible leader. I know what his future is. Right now, somebody like that is burning up tons of accumulated karma to reach a position of power. And by being horrible, I know his future. So when I go down the street and I see some poor homeless person begging for money, I mean, I don't give money because they'll maybe buy liquor or whatever, but if I have my protein bar, I always hand them one. A little shot of protein bar, why not? But I know what their past was. I might not know the details, but I know what their past was. They get in that position. And when somebody is in a great position of power and abusing it, I know what their future is. I don't know the details. That's for Krishna. But I can see past and I can see future. And so can you. Somebody, once in a while, people say, well, if I don't know what I karmically did to get into this mess, how am I learning a lesson? Well, Krishna actually answers that in the Gita. Krishna says, so many lives have I had, and so many of you had, but I remember them all. You don't. Because imagine you remembered all your parents from all your previous lives. There's a Bhagavatam story like that, where a baby died. King Chitraketu, yes, the baby died. Narada Muni came, brought the baby back to life. He said, oh, my baby's here. And the baby, who could speak, came just for a little bit and said, mommy, daddy, which mommy and daddy? I've had so many lives. Are you my mommy and daddy? You know, in other words, if we could remember all our previous lives, imagine the trauma. Some of you have trauma from your childhood. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand, but you know, but some of you have child from your traumahood. I mean, I did, being half blind and being shunned. It's a trauma, a wonderful trauma. It did the best thing in the world for me. We all have our traumas. And imagine if you could remember the traumas from your previous 100 lives, how screwed up you'd really be now. You think that little trauma you had as a kid screwed you up. Wait till 100 lives traumas accumulate in your head. So we don't know the details, Krishna says, but we know the impressions. We know the impressions. And that's how we learn our lessons. So now we'll get to the verse because I've gone on too long. But I really wanted to give a prelude to what we're talking about in this chapter. So we're going to do text 7, I believe. Who's a good first chanter? I want to pick the paragraph of the purport of that. Who's good at that? Yes, you're the chosen one.
Sanskrit once.
Yes, 7.
Uddhava Uvacha Krishna Timma Loche Girneshvaga Girneshvajagare Naha Kinduna Kushalam Bruyam Kadashrishu Griheshvaham Uttara Uvacha Krishna Timmanini Loche Girneshvajagare Naha Kinduna Kushalam Bruyam Kadashrishu Griheshvaham Uddhava Uvacha Krishna Dimani Loche Girneshvajagare Naha Kinnuna kushalam bruya Kadashrishu griheshvaham.
Okay. Sri Uddhava said, "My dear Vidura, the sun of the world, Lord Krishna has set, and our house has now been swallowed by the great snake of time. What can I say to you about our welfare?" Very lamentable verse. Uddhava, so close to Krishna, says to Vidura, so close to Krishna, the sun of the world has set. Darkness has set. Any of you have been in a blackout? You've been someplace at night and all of a sudden all the lights go out. You know, there's nothing. Total dark. It's quite a weird feeling. So there's no moon. All of a sudden it's cloudy. There's nothing, no light in the sky, and the power goes out. Total darkness. That's what in India happened. When I lived there, it happened all the time. Most of the time, power was steady, and you can't see anything. Didn't have flashlights. Just total darkness. It's a weird feeling. That's what they're trying to give that emotion. Total darkness. That's the feeling. Krishna is God. So the disappearance of Krishna may be explained as follows. According to the commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, Vidura was struck with great sorrow when he got the hint of the annihilation of the great Yadu dynasty, as well as his own family. In other words, Vidura is here. My family died. My relatives died. And then Uddhava could understand the grief of Vidura. Therefore, he first wanted to sympathize with him by saying, after the sunset, everyone is in darkness. Since the entire world was merged in the darkness of grief, neither Vidura nor Uddhava nor anyone could be happy. Uddhava was much aggrieved as Vidura. There was nothing further to be said about their welfare. So, when someone dies, it's natural to lament. You don't have to lament. It purifies the heart. At the same time, it's not a sentimental lamentation. Sentimental lamentation means I don't understand the big picture. Big picture is no one can die, but we will not have that person's situation. One time, I had this very unusual experience for me. I was life membership director of the Houston Temple, and I had a partner named Pashupati. He's my Sankirtan partner. And every night, I had a full-time job, but every night we'd go out there. The first wave of Indians to get visas in America were in petroleum engineers. Before the Patels who owned the convenience stores and hotels, and before the businessmen from Punjab and other places, before they all came, the first way to get visas were the engineers, and they flocked to Houston. There was no Silicon Valley. So it was this community building, and I spoke Hindi. So I said, okay, I'll start with some tight. What do you say to God when he sneezes, by the way? What do you say to God if he sneezes? Yeah. Yeah, I can't say God bless you. Anyway, if somebody ever figures that one out, let me know. But that, good answer. Good answer. That's sharp. I like that. Very good answer. Now I don't have that mystery anymore. I'll have to think of something else to keep me up at night. Okay. So, where was I? We got interrupted by a sneeze. Yes, the engineers are there. And so I started going out and preaching to them. Programs during the day, there was a big office complex. and then the center starts working as a scientist and a company. In this 4 big buildings around a plaza. The plaza was in the daylight, so I got there every day and give a Gita class to all the Indian engineers come. And it's going on at night. I'd go preaching. My partner, we go out every night, grab our book bags and go to people's houses. It was quite an exciting time. It was the first time that we were, the whole movement, there were no Indians in the movement to speak of. In India, all the devotees were basically Western. Very few Indians had joined. And so we were saying, well, the Prabhupada said the Indians, they're our best friends. The problem is you Americans, you're 10 steps from Krishna facing the right way. And those Indians at that time, they're 1 step from Krishna facing the wrong way. So we go out, and he and I did this for about a year. And then he moved. He had assigned to another temple. He was my partner. And when he left, an emotion came to me that I never expected. I started crying. I couldn't believe it. So it's natural. And we have these deep, and ours was a very deep spiritual relationship. You could never have a deeper spiritual relationship than with Krishna. So when Krishna departs, it's natural to lament. But then that lamentation turns slowly into something more profound because we start remembering. And the instruction given herein by Uddhava is as you remember Krishna, you get reconnected. Now, my friend who left, it wasn't quite the same because it's not Krishna, but my remembrance of him did give some consolation. Remembrance of my parents, very good parents, gives some consolation. So this lamenting is natural. Now herein is discussing that Prabhupada gives the example of the sun. And the reason the example of the sun is important is because the sun never sets. There used to be a saying in England through the British Empire. Anybody know what the saying was? When the British Empire was at its peak, it had colonies in Australia, it had colonies in the Caribbean, colonies, India was its colony, Afghanistan was its colony, colonies in Africa. What's that? Yes, America was its colony. What was the saying? The sun never sets on the British Empire. Now it's so foggy in London, the saying is the sun never rises on the British Empire. Because empires always come and go. So the example given here is the sun never sets. It just appears to set to us. But the sun is always in that same place. And if the sun is rising here, it's setting right now. It's setting in China right now. I think that's correct. So it's our illusion that we think we're losing the sun. So it's our illusion that we think someone is dying. It's our illusion. This is the metaphor given here. The sun is always present. Now, let me ask you a little science question because I'm Bhaktivedanta Institute. Trick question. Very trick question. Does the earth go around the sun or does the sun go around the earth? Trick question. Who has an answer? Yes. Seems that way. Okay, anybody have another answer? Yes.
I think when
Yes.
he came, he was saying, actually, from the perspective of the Earth, you could say that the sun is like going around this Earth, but the trajectory just looks really wriggly. Like the trajectory of all the planets can be mapped out based on this center, but it will look not as an oval shape. It will just look different.
Look like a spirograph.
Right.
little circles. Sariputta, the late genius among us for the Bhaktivedanta Institute, wrote 2 books on this. The last one, Mysteries of the Sacred Universe. In the time of Galileo and Copernicus, when it was challenged that the Earth went around the sun, that was considered heretical. Why? Because Jesus appeared here. This is the center of the universe, and that would mess that worldview up. And if Galileo didn't have a friend, if the Pope wasn't his friend, he would have probably been put in prison or worse. So Sariputta had the realization that actually it makes no difference. It's all mathematical. The simplest model, Occam's razor, is the sun the center and the planets going around. But since we live on Earth, we could look at the rotation of the planets. Earth was the center point. It makes the math more complicated and everything going around it. Or the moon, or Venus, or Mars, or Jupiter, whatever you want, could be that focal point. But since we live on Earth, he said, let me take the Earth as the pivot point and then do the math. And it turns out all the planets are in a plane. They don't have to be, but they are all in a flat plane. Everyone knows that. And it turns out that if you do the math, Earth-centric, and you measure the dvipas, which means islands in the 5th canto, the circumference of these islands, from an Earth-centric point of view, and you use the standard, they use a standard measurement called yojanas. We know a yojana is about 8.2 miles. And you use the standard method. You can calculate how far the planets are from each other within 2%, which, by the way, wasn't known until around 1860 when modern telescopes were starting to happen. So using Earth-centric and then doing this calculation of the dvipas, that's actually one of the mysteries of the 5th canto. Anyway, that's a little aside here. So, but it's quite, to me, I found that quite fascinating. Oh yeah, yeah. It matches it quite a bit. It is almost impossible. Doesn't, yeah. One famous professor, Pingree at Brown University, was an archaeoastronomer from the Indian side, and he was presented with that. He wouldn't even read the paper. He goes, poppycock, impossible. But it's true. I mean, you can have freshman college math, and anyone can do the calculation themselves. It doesn't require big to do it. Know a little bit of geometry, trigonometry. Okay, so as the sun appears in the morning and gradually rises in meridian, then sets in one hemisphere, while simultaneously rising in another. So Lord Krishna's disappearance in one universe and the beginning of his different pastimes, another take place simultaneously. As soon as one pastime is finished, it manifests another universe, and thus his Nitya Lila, or eternal pastimes, are going on without ending. As the sunrise takes place once in 24 hours, similarly the pastimes of Lord Krishna take place in the universe once in the day of Brahma, the account of which is given in the Gita as 4,300,000,000 years. By the way, that's a curious number because that's considered by geologists the age of the Earth. There was a famous Carl Sagan. Who here has heard of Carl Sagan? Very famous astronomer. And he wrote a book called Cosmos. And very well-spoken, charismatic astronomer, really attracted people to the science of astronomy and astrophysics. And Carl Sagan, in his Cosmos, made one mistake. And when I read it, I said, such an obvious mistake. How did he miss this? Here's what he said. He said, of all the great literatures in the world, all the great traditions, only one of them comes close to modern science as far as timescales. Because most great traditions, be it Mayan tradition, Inca, Roman, Greek traditions, when they have timescales, I mean, the most conservative Christian tradition says, the earth began 7,000 years ago. Very few would be in that mood. But all the traditions had some calculations, some millions, but none of them had a number like this, 4.5 billion. None of them had it. He said, the only tradition that comes close to modern astronomy is the Vedic tradition. Now, what's wrong with that statement? That's a statement that I found flawed, yes. I'll speak a little louder with the microphone, please.
He's making assumptions, like as if he already knows everything.
Yeah. Well, what I thought that statement should have said is modern science is getting close to the Vedic tradition. Because the Vedic tradition was there first. He says the Vedic tradition is getting close to modern science, but they were there first. How could that be? He got that reversed. So that's where Carl Sagan screwed that one up. Otherwise, he's a pretty smart guy. But he screwed that one up pretty badly, I thought. So here's that number. And I can say, as a geologist, that's the number that we give, curiously, for the age of the Earth. Now, how it actually that correlates, I don't know all these things, but that is the number. How do modern geologists know that's the age of the Earth? Anybody know? Yes.
Maybe they've tried carbon dating all of the oldest rocks they can find.
Carbon dating takes you back a couple 100,000 years. You're close, but you don't get a cigar for that one. We don't get a cigar for anything around here anyway. Yes. Microphone, please.
Is it LiDAR?
No. That won't give that information, but I understand what you're saying. How do we know that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old?
Is it through some kind of, like trees? How many years has a tree been? There's like another ring.
Yeah, so, that will give you about 5,000 years.
Huh.
Yeah, that works well. I've counted tree rings.
Not to exactly trees, but like layers of rocks or something.
That was how it was initially done, layers of rocks. And they came up with a guess of 100 million years. Because most of the rocks are eroded. We only have a very small percentage of the rocks that were ever on Earth that we actually see, like in the Grand Canyon. Yes.
Dating?
Carbon dating only takes you back 100,000 years.
Okay. And then also,
but you're close.
But if this is the a day of Brahma, does that mean if we calculate the Earth to be that old, that we're at the end of a day?
Well, I'm not sure what it means. That's a good question. I'm not sure of how that correlation works, but it's very curious that the day of Brahma, in which at the night of Brahma, there's a partial destruction. And that happens to be roughly the age of the Earth. How do we know? It's called radioactive decay. Radioactive decay, like carbon-14, but carbon-14 is short-acting, like uranium going to radon. It goes at a steady rate called a half-life. And the half-life is very long. So you find the oldest rocks you can find, which are found in places like the Canadian Shield. And you find inside these rocks some crystals, zirconium crystals. And in these crystals, you can then see radioactive decay products. And then you do the calculation. And it works quite well. I've done the calculation. It works quite well. So that's our guess. And it's interesting that it corresponds. Now, exactly what that means in real life, to me, it means that when Brahma goes to sleep, there's a universal destruction. And the modern theory of cosmology says the universe is expanding and contracts, which is exactly what the Bhagavatam says. Lord Vishnu breathes, it goes out, and then it contracts. One time there was a book written 1975-ish by this anti-cult person. And she wrote a book. Her name was Margaret Singer. And she considered all religious experience to be a cult. And she was an equal opportunity basher. So she bashed Krishnas, Catholics, Protestants, and Jews. She would bash everybody who was involved in religion was in a cult. So we felt in good company. Here's what she said about the Krishnas. And when I read it, I said, wow, this is why I'm a Krishna. Here's what she said. She was trying to tell us how stupid it is. To me, it was wonderful. She says, they think that God can lie down on some kind of cushion and breathe and millions of universes come out. How absurd. And I said, to me, that's amazing. That's God. This is wonderful. So our argument was quite myopic. Blind use on. So in the pictures we have in the Bhagavatam, the first canto, you'll see Vishnu lying in millions of universes descending. Modern cosmology says that there are unlimited universes, unlimited galaxies, unlimited even universes, and they're all expanding. And then at some point they stop expanding and collapse into a singularity known as a black hole. And that's what modern cosmology says, and curiously, kind of matches the Bhagavatam version. So to put it this way, the Bhagavatam is finally getting close to modern science. So, yes.
The other cosmos that we are saying, do modern science actually observe other galaxies now? Are we able to?
Yeah.
So are the other galaxies actually different universes, or?
The answer to that is, no one quite knows. I mean, at the BI, we're designing all the exhibits for the largest science museum in India, the Temple of Vedic Planetarium. And these are the questions we're facing. What is it? And when the Webb and Hubble telescopes see these amazing phenomena, exactly what is it? We can never see the end of the universe because the universe is expanding. Nothing can move faster than the speed of light, according to Einstein, except one thing. What goes faster than the speed of light? Well, that's true too. That's a good point. Besides that, good point. The universe itself is expanding. Space is expanding, according to the modern science, faster than the speed of light. So that means we can never see the end of the universe. Impossible to see it because the space is actually expanding. That this is Einstein's theory of general relativity, which has passed quite a few tests of factual. So if it's true, I can't 100% say it's true, but that's the modern theory. And you can never see the end of the universe. And so that means you can't see the next universe. But you can see many galaxies within this universe. Now, what does the word universe, when it's translated, there are several words that get translated as universe. Loka, sometimes translated as universe. Loka simply means place, like it's cognitive with the American. What the word loka in Sanskrit, but sometimes it's translated as planet or universe. What's it cognitive to in English? The word you all know. Location. Yeah, it's from the Sanskrit, the word location. It comes right from Sanskrit. So, so there are several words that end up being translated as universe, but exactly what it means precisely. This is the things that we study at the Institute, but some of these things we can decipher and some may wait for many generations more. But the modern theory is we can never see the end of the universe, we can't see the next universe, but there are many galaxies, many planets. It's quite amazing when we look at the night sky. One of the exhibits we have at the planetarium, you'll love this exhibit. There's something called light pollution. And anybody here been out in the middle of the ocean? Anybody? I've been in the middle of the ocean on a boat. What do you see at night? Billions of stars, way more than you see here. And in ancient times, before there was light pollution, at night, people would see billions of stars. That's why when they looked at the sky, there is a God, there is a creator. You just feel overwhelmed by that. So one of our exhibits is a totally dark room. Nothing, no light. And it's like a planetarium. And then we show the modern night sky that you might see. You see some stars. And if you get on the outskirts of town, you see more. Then we show the night sky with no light pollution and no clouds. And it's awesome. People like using the word awesome now. I had to pull up my insurance company and they go, "What's your birthday?" And I give it to them. They go, "Awesome." And they go, "And what's your address?" I give it to them. She goes, "Awesome." And I didn't realize I was so important. So that's a misuse of the word. But it was strange. But in reality, seeing this night sky is awesome. I do it myself. There's a park I go to at night on the north side of town that somehow it has a lot of trees around it and it has minimal light pollution. So when I have job to do at night, I go to this park in the north side of town, go for a nice walk called Hogtown Park, and I go for a walk there. And I actually obtained the park for the city. It's a whole long story. It's an attachment to it. And I go for a walk and I see maybe 5 times the amount of stars I'll see just sitting at this edge. And it gives me that feeling of awesome connection, appreciation of how small I am and how vast things are. So with that, we'll stop here. Are there any final question or comment? We're out of time. Oh, we are. It's 8:32. I'll ask questions privately. We got to get on with Krishna lunch. We
Just
end
make
things
a
on time.
quick comment, really quick. The universe has layers of coverings, right? And
Yeah.
the last 3 layers, which are like just gigantic, are actually mind, intelligence, and ego, which is not visible. Like we can't really see with our physical eyes. So maybe that's given an impression that it's expanding unlimitedly, but it's basically expanding into the realms that eyes and our instruments cannot
Yeah.
detect.
Yeah.
And also another was that in the Bhagavatam it says that the partial destruction, the planets that are below Sita Loka or Viktadara Loka or whatever, I think, right? They get destroyed, but there are a few higher planets that don't. So it's partial destruction, but Earth is definitely destroyed. So it's renewed
wow.
every day of Brahma.
And we're working hard to make sure Earth gets destroyed. We are doing a very good job at that nowadays. Yeah, this is a very complex issue. I don't want to, if I start commenting on it, I'll be off with my head. So then we'll wait for another time. But you're all welcome to come by the Bhaktivedanta Institute, where we have our astrophysicists who live and breathe this day and night. Thank you very much. Have a good day at Krishna lunch. Hare Krishna.